just because Harry's not as vocal or as loud with his words as other caddies, it doesn't mean that he doesn't say anything, that he doesn't do anything. They're never there to say, Harry did such a great job when I win, but they're always there to say it's such a, they criticize when we don't win.
And folks, without further ado, I've got Cameron Strachan on the channel. He's the author of Unfuck Your Golf Swing and Look and Shoot Putting. And most importantly, he's the former coach of a very young Aaron Baddeley.
G'day, Pants. Thanks for having me, mate. Great to be here.
Cameron, tell us about the early days of your golf instruction era when you became the tutor of Aaron Baddeley. And this is the guy who in 99 and 2000 won back-to-back Australian Opens as a wonder kid.
Yeah, Pants. He certainly was a wonder kid. He was amazing. He was about 13 or 14. He was a member at my club in Melbourne, Victoria, Australia. And I was one of the few guys he couldn't beat. He was unbelievably good at 13, 14 years of age. And I was winning a few events, nothing major, but I was probably the guy to beat around the club. And he came up to me one day and said, mate, you putt so well. What are you doing? So I showed him some things. And that was really it. He went on, the next year he won the state title, the state amateur title. Then a year or two later, he won the Australian Open as an amateur. It was unbelievable. He beat Greg Norman and Colin Montgomery down the stretch. And then for good measure, he turned pro and then he won it again next year. He played in the US Masters. He was just phenomenal. It was really just some basic ideas that I'd learned. I now call natural learning. And he just took to it like a duck to water and, became a superstar.
What's interesting, because I think he didn't start the game that much earlier than age 13. Maybe he started when he was 11 or so. I also recall reading that his parents would take his golf clubs away from him one day a week because he was so addicted to golf.
Yeah, it was a long time ago now. It was probably 25 years ago. I think he's nearly 40 or he's in his 40s, so it was a long time ago. He was obsessed, I think. There's one summer over here, one of the greens at the golf course was closed, and the hole was closed, and he actually would go out to that green and practice his short game for hours and hours every day. And then the following year, he went on to win all those events. So he was very dedicated, and I think his parents had to slow him down a little bit, otherwise he would have burnt out.
Another interesting thing about him, and this might be an Australian thing, he's famous for being a bad dresser. That's why his nickname was Dresses Badly. Is that an Australian thing, to have no type of color coordination or fashion sense?
I think so. The other thing with the Aussies is that we give everyone a nickname, Pants, like you. So it's good that you've got a nickname. Not everyone gets our sense of humour, but almost everyone's got a nickname. And if you haven't got a nickname, you soon will get one if you hang around Aussies long enough.
You helped Aaron Baddeley find his natural putting stroke. And this guy, on some level, didn't fulfill his promise, because when you're winning as a wonder kid, the Australian Open back-to-back, and he also had the one US Open where he's leading going to the final round, and I think he shot an 80.
Yeah.
He's almost the poster boy of a guy who could have used your system of unfuck your golf swing. He did the opposite. He fucked up his golf swing.
Well, I think he did. Look, I haven't spoken to Aaron about this. I'd love to one day, but I believe his putting hasn't changed that much. And I sell books to I've sold books to PGA Tour players and very elite golfers over in the US, and they know him or know of him, and they still tell me that he putts well. The quick story is, in 2004, I was in Arizona. I stayed at his house, and we're out playing. We played a couple of rounds, and after about, the second round, I said, Aaron, mate, your putting is so unbelievably good. I'm in awe, mate. How do you do it? And he looked at me with a bit of a grin on his face, and he said, who taught me to putt, Cameron? And I went, I don't know, mate. It was one of the guys back in Melbourne, probably Steve Bann or Dale Lynch or whatever. And he goes, no, you idiot, you did. You taught me how to putt, and I haven't changed. He said you should write a book, so I did. That's the quick story. But as far as I'm aware, he hasn't changed his putting at all. He still putts exceptionally well, but he's messed around with his swing a lot. There's been David Ledbetter, there's been Stack and Tilt, and I wish he would just give up on all that and just play, because I know he's so good. I can't begin to tell your listeners how good he was at 15, 16, 17 years of age. He used to stripe it.
Yeah, I watched him on a range at a Corn Ferry Tour event here a few years ago, and I was in awe of his ball striking ability, and I can only imagine how much better he was back when he was younger. Again, beating Greg Norman and Colin Montgomery at the Australian Open, having a somewhat successful career. And then at some point, like so many pros do, they find a David Ledbetter type character who's basically like the Colonel to Elvis. He ruins your life.
Yeah, well, I don't know David Ledbetter, but I'm not a massive fan of overly technical instruction. And to me, it seems like a lot of the coaches, it's more about them. It's about them, having all the knowledge and the power, and they impart it to the student. But my belief is that the student has all the talent and all the power, and that's why the learning model can be so powerful.
If you watch David Ledbetter teach his A swing on YouTube, the videos are out there. I believe he should be in jail. It's that crazy. He's like no body turn. It's all this like butterfly grip, super cupping action. He did to Michelle Wei. You basically take all the athleticism out of the swing. You're trying to make them some type of like robot. Their back is destroyed. The only person he really helped, in my opinion, was Faldo, maybe.
I've got some strong opinions on all that. And like Michelle Wei, it's criminal what happened to her. At 13 years of age, she was playing in men's events. And even that was in 2004, because I was over in the US when Michelle Wei was doing that. And she was she was phenomenally good. And, the sky was the limit. And look, she had an okay career, but I think she fell well short of what she was fully capable of doing.
What's the biggest discovery you've made with your many years of experience?
I think it's a good question. Like, there's probably a few, but the biggest thing that really struck me and hit me like a ton of bricks and really changed my thinking and my approach and really helped me become a better player and a better coach was the 80-20 rule. So I was in Chicago for a conference back in 2010, and the conference for the most part, Pants, was terrible. It was awful. There was all these guys trying to game the system, trying to trick Google and trick Facebook and try and make a quick buck. But one guy got up on the last day. His name was Perry Marshall, and he was from Chicago, and he just blew my mind. And he spoke about the 80-20 rule, the Pareto principle, as it's also known. And that basically says that, for about 80% of results will come from about 20% of your actions. So a small amount of things you do will give you the greatest results. So more bang for your buck. And when he spoke about this, he spoke about it for an hour and a half. It completely floored me. It was amazing. And most of the room were very excited. And he spoke about it in terms of business. So he said, focus on a small amount of your customers because they will bring in most of your money. But then he said it works for everything. It works for absolutely everything. And I thought, well, absolutely, it's going to work for golf. And it resonated with me because it represented what had worked well for me in the past with golf. So yeah, that was probably the greatest discovery. We don't need lots and lots of information. What we need is a select few bits of information that has the biggest impact. And as Perry said, it's like moving the biggest door with the smallest hinge. And it's like a mechanical advantage, it's a mental advantage, and it just works wonderfully well when you get that right bit of information.
And it seems like modern instruction nowadays is more information. More is better. Every angle, this line, this vector, everything is analyzed to the nth degree. You're against that.
I couldn't be more against it. I mean, YouTube, the internet is the greatest discovery, or one of the greatest discoveries of mankind. But when it comes to golf learning and golf coaching, there's so much information out there that it's almost like the producers of the content are entertainers. They're getting more and more extreme with their views. You've only got to look at TikTok for 2 minutes and you'll see some absolutely crazy grips and stances and swings and training drills. And it just doesn't really help the average person. And it doesn't help because most of us don't learn that way. We don't learn in an overly technical way. My research suggests that only 2% of golfers can learn in a technical way.
What is the single biggest mistake golfers make nowadays?
When it comes to pretty much learning any skill in golf, is that we don't trust our inbuilt learning system. Like, we just overcomplicate it. So we feed all this information in, and the worse we play, and make no mistake, you will play poorly if you have too much information going on in your head. We just can't do that. But the problem we have is that we start playing poorly, and then instead of letting go and freeing ourselves up, we feed in more information. So the very thing that you're trying to use to fix your golf swing or fix your golf game is the thing causing you all the problems. So it's a compounding mess, mate. And it's no surprise that people struggle.
Why does automatic golf work?
Really simply, it works because we are working with our natural learning system. Essentially, it makes golf improvement, golf learning, golf success no harder than throwing and catching a ball. It really does. It's just simple, and it frees you up. So you've got more bandwidth. Instead of thinking about 127 different things, you've got more bandwidth to enjoy the game and hit the ball and choose the right club and have some fun, talk to your playing partners. And freeze everything up. And then once that happens, the really good stuff can happen. You get better results for the least amount of effort. And that's getting back to that Pareto principle again, more bang for your buck.
A great point you bring up in Look and Shoot is that if you had to really focus on every action, getting down a flight of stairs, you wouldn't get down the flight of stairs.
No, I got that from a sports scientist. So back in the day, I was involved in a major biomechanical study of the swing. I was still figuring out this natural learning caper, this automatic golf stuff. So I got involved with a scientist, these really smart scientists, and one of them said that to me, Cameron, if you overanalyze anything, including walking down a flight of stairs, you'll end up in a heap at the bottom. And that, again, was a very profound comment from a really smart scientist. And you'd think that the scientists would have been really analytical and overly detailed, but they actually taught me more about learning and peak performance than many of the golf professionals.
In your book, you talk about finding your natural putting stroke. At what point does this occur?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think that we're all hardwired to learn. We've all got a natural ability to learn. We are learning machines. For example, we all learn to walk before we can talk, so we have that ability to learn things. I'm sort of reminded as you asked that question about what it really. Another guy that I've met, a learning expert, he said to me, Cameron, what does a banana taste like? And I went, what do you mean, what does a banana taste like? He goes, no, what does a banana taste like? Can you describe it to me? And I go, no, I can't. It's impossible. So when it comes to your grip and your stance, I think it's almost impossible for a coach to presume that they can tell you how to hold the club or how to stand or how to swing. So it's got to be learned. You've got to do it yourself. So in terms of getting the natural stroke, it's natural if you get up to the ball and get comfortable and move the club in a way that feels good to you. That is a much more instinctive way of playing. And then you've got to trust that your learning system will gradually get better over the journey. It's not a 5-minute fix in many cases. It's a lifelong pursuit, and you can always be getting better. But if you disrupt that process and try and feed in information that might not work for you, then anything could happen. You could be going around in circles for many, many years. And I see and speak to a lot of golfers from every golf playing nation on the planet. They are confused, they're frustrated, they're annoyed, they can't sink a putt from a foot, or they can't, hit a fairway, to save themselves.
That's interesting you bring up not being able to make a putt from a foot. We all remember the image of Ernie Els like 6-putting a green at the Masters. All of a sudden he just can't get the ball in the hole. What causes the yips?
Well, I think it's a slow progression of overloading your learning system, over the journey. It gets back to, if you overcomplicate how to walk down a flight of stairs, you'll end up in a heap at the bottom. If you overcomplicate the art of rolling the ball along the nice green grass towards a hole, you'll end up in a heap at the bottom. And the heap at the bottom, in terms of putting, is you'll yip, you'll flinch. Your learning system is short-circuiting. It doesn't know what to do.
How do you clear out your mind? I know you have some techniques so that you can get out of your own way.
Yeah, one of the favorites is one of my favorite is a mental distraction technique, and it's as simple as counting numbers in your head. So you can just start counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. As you're walking to the ball, as you get set up, you're still counting, and you're still counting as you're making the golf swing, and it bypasses a lot of the internal chatter in your head and all the complications. So it's really freeing you up. That can work well. I've been using a form of mental distraction technique for 30 years now, give or take, and I still do it, and it's absolutely amazing at how well it keeps the pesky mind, the little voice that sits on your shoulder and tells you how bad you are, gets rid of him, and it allows your natural talent to shine through. And it doesn't matter if it's putting or chipping, a bunker shot or a full swing, it can work all the time. Aim point. Look, I'm going to be 100% honest, mate. I've looked at it a little bit way back in the day. I didn't like it then, and I don't know if anyone using aim point is any better than anyone else. So Dave Pell's said in his amazing book, The Putting Bible, that golfers, it doesn't matter if you're tour level or you're at weekend warrior level, we really don't read greens correctly. So what I like to do is let my learning system read the green for me. So it's more of a subconscious green read. I get an approximation. It's a bit left to right. It's a bit right to left. It's downhill. But then I get out of the way and putt, and that seems to work well for me. Aim point's trying to predict and figure out everything beforehand, and that gets back to what you said earlier about all this information. We're trying to overload and dump as much information, thinking it helps. Now, for some people it will, but I think for the vast majority, it doesn't help. And if you look at Adam Scott, great guy, amazing golfer, and I think he putts okay, but you can't tell me that a guy so talented and so amazing at hitting the ball can't find a way to putt the ball in the hole, with the least amount of fluff and effort and stress. But he puts his 2 fingers up and 3 fingers, and prances around. But I believe if he got out of his way, he would be even better.
Aaron Baddeley takes practice strokes from behind the ball. A lot of people take it when they're over the ball. Which side of that are you on?
I like golfers to practice, if they're going to do a practice stroke, and you don't always have to do a practice stroke, by the way. If you look at other sports, we don't really do practice strokes or practice, we don't practice our soccer kicking before we take a penalty shot, or the tennis player doesn't do a practice serve before they hit their serve. There's none of that. But if you're going to do it, I like golfers to do it behind the ball. And there's a few reasons for that. The main reason is that you're doing all your thinking and you're analysing behind the ball. So when you get to the ball, you're going to putt more freely and more instinctively, more naturally.
I've recently started, maybe in the last 2 weeks or so, really lining up my ball with a little marker line, and I've never putted better. I'm not even kidding. I just line up the ball and I trust the line. In the past, I didn't trust the line, and because when you get over it, your eyes don't necessarily match up. But now
Correct.
I trust focusly on the line. I'm knocking them in there.
Yeah, well, it's a good story and it's a good question, Pants. I was coaching a young kid. He was 14 or 15 years of age, and he was insistent on lining up the ball before he putted. And he was hopeless at doing it. He used to take forever. Like he was so slow. And I was watching him going, there's bloody got to be an easier way to do this. Like, it's just taking too long. So I thought, well, what if instead of having one line, why don't I draw 3 lines? And so I sort of figured out a way to do 3 lines. There was no training aid back in the day. They're out there now, and I had to have one. But yeah, the 3 lines made it easier for him, and he sped up his play. He got confidence because when he was over the ball, he knew he was lined up. So it was a win-win. So he putted more quickly, he lined up more quickly. He got more confident, and then he made better strokes. So I'm a fan if it works. If it doesn't work, don't do it. But if you think it's going to help you, then yeah, look at a 3-line system. In fact, I got 4 lines. I got a perpendicular line at the back of the ball, which helps you square up the club face as well. So that's quite unique in the golf world. But if it works for you, go for it. If it doesn't work, then yeah, wouldn't do it.
This line in your book is better than anything Dr. Bob Rotella has put out. I'm going to say it right now. How would I stroke this putt if I knew I was going to make it? That's stuck in my head. I love that. Are you a Zen master?
Yeah, I don't know. It's funny when you write a book. I mean, I've written 15 books, I think, now, and people give me quotes, not all the time, but regularly, especially in these type of interviews. And I don't know how I came up with that, but yeah, it's just a way. It's a little mental trick to give someone the confidence to stroke the putt freely. Because if you knew the putt was already in the hole, you wouldn't be tense, you wouldn't be tight. And what I want to do as a coach is see what the student, the pupil will do when they free up, because often that's where the magic lies. We are so preconditioned as adults, typically adults, even kids in this day and age, but mostly adults, to do everything right and not to break any rules. They're stiff and they're tight and they're over controlling, and they've got this awful stroke or awful swing. So I love to get people to break free from that and show me what they really can do. And honestly, a lot of times they'll surprise themselves, but also surprise a coach.
I think that can be applied to every facet of life. For example, how would you talk to the hot blonde at the bar if you knew she was going to give you her number? It just, by being in that positive mindset, it kind of helps you become successful.
Yeah, no doubt. I'm very interested in business, and I've got some people in town who are very successful in business. And the overarching mindset that these guys have, and one guy is basically a billionaire. He's very wealthy. They're all about having a go, getting in there and having a go, and trusting yourself. And they talk to me about golf because they think it's amazing when I go and play. I don't practice much. I play once a month, and when I go out there, I can shoot par or better, and they're amazed by that. But it's the same for me as it is for them in business. Like, I have a go. I let my learning system take control. They trust themselves when they make multi-million-dollar decisions. Most people would absolutely crap themselves on some of these business decisions they make. So yeah, it's just about getting out of your own way, trusting yourself, and not getting in the way.
Is that why so many golfers get worse when they take lessons? Is because they're putting their trust in someone else's hand and removing the power from themselves?
Yeah, there could be a whole podcast on this, but yeah, I just think, and this is not to beat up on the poor golf pro. Like, they're all good guys. They all try hard. They all want people to play better. But when you understand the learning system, it just does not respond that well to verbal instructions. The part of the brain that performs the motion, the part of the brain that understands the instruction has no means to perform the motion. So there's a disconnect. So it's okay for a golf pro to say, swing on a 37.5 degree plane and have your elbow pointing here. It sounds great. It sounds like they're really knowledgeable and it's going to help. But you have no means, unless you're very, very lucky, in a tiny percentage of people, you have no means to make that happen. So, yeah, it's short circuits going on. There's a disconnect, and you get frustrated. And unfortunately, in the golf industry, the way to counteract that is feed more shit in. So you just go around in circles.
What is technique without technique?
Yeah, it's a great concept. That comes from the world of sports science, sports coaching. Yeah, it's basically where you perform an action and a lot of good things happen as a result. So, in the terms of the golf swing has been proven scientifically to be a throwing action, or just moving the club in a throwing type motion. When you do that, lots of good things happen. You naturally take the club back on a plane that will work. You cock your wrists, you'll shift your weight, you'll rotate, you'll apply power, and you do all that without thinking about doing it. You're actually just doing that by throwing the club. It's a brilliant concept that gives you, again, the most results for the least amount of effort. Getting back to that 80-20 rule.
Here's another person that maybe other people would consider an underachiever as well. You have Rory McIlroy. He's had success in the past. Obviously had a great swing. 10 years ago had 4 majors, and now still only has 4 majors. What's going on with this guy's swing? Why did he change it? Just like Tiger's changed his swing 3 or 4 times. Every time he changed it, he would just get back to his old winning percentage, but he would always have that dip between each change.
Poor old Rory. I don't feel that sorry for him. Like, he's super unbelievably talented. He's got all the money in the world. He lives the lifestyle. But yeah, I think if he was really honest, and I don't know if I've ever heard him interviewed where he's 100% honest on this, but I feel, he'd be disappointed, especially the last 10 years. He's won a total of 0 majors in the last 10 years. So he's only won 4. Obviously, I think he's underachieved. I've got no doubt, and I've seen him on YouTube channels. I've seen him, doing his specials and, on TV. I can't believe he thinks so much about his swing the way he does. Like, shit, Rory, you're unbelievable, mate. You can hit all the shots. Go out there and play. And, unfortunately for him, under pressure, that overthinking can compound. We saw him miss a few putts, but, he also hit some bad shots as well. Like, he didn't just miss putts. He hit the ball over the green on the 14th hole. This is the US Open. He missed the green on 17, got up and down, luckily. Missed the fairway on 18. It all just starts snowballing. But I just cannot believe a guy who's that talented just doesn't go out and play and let it rip and hit shots. Putt how he wants to, just seems to overthink it continuously. And it doesn't surprise me that, he's had a little, he's unbelievable. He's an incredible golfer, but he hasn't won the majors. So, there's something not right.
Those putts on 16 and 18. The 16 was fairly straight in, under 3 feet. The one on 18, a little trickier. But this is a guy, as all your systems and your books point out, overthinking it, freaks out in the moment, probably could have done some of your talking, counting out numbers, distraction drills, just to put a smooth roll on the ball. Yeah,
I mean, look, every golfer will miss some putts. But, when you're in that moment and you really want to win, there's obviously a lot of pressure. 16, I think his first putt was horrendous. I think he hit it in the worst spot. He hit it past the hole, down the hill, sloping. He just needed to lag. It's easy for me to say, look, who am I? I'm a bloody hacker, left-handed hacker from Australia. But in my form of that, I was always able to, playing golf for my golf team or playing against, competitions, I was able to 2-putt those putts most of the time. But you got to leave it in a spot where the next putt's easy. He hit both putts. He left himself a horrible putt, especially on 18. It was past the hole. It was downhill. It was breaking to the right. So, it's easy for us to sort of criticize. But, if you look at those last sort of 4 or 5 holes, with open eyes and, objectively, he probably would have to admit that he hit some bad shots as well as missed some putts. But, just a simple putt below the hole on 16, it probably would have won it.
Would you rather have a beginner to teach or someone who's been working with, for example, David Ledbetter for 2 years?
Oh, shit, David Ledbetter student. It'd be interesting, David Ledbetter student. You'd have to try and beat out a lot of the technical thoughts. I just got an email today from a long-term client. He said, it's funny, Cameron, how these coaches, and he wasn't referring to David Ledbetter, but he might have been. But anyway, he said that they changed their whole coaching theories. Ledbetter was all about big muscles and all that for many years, and now he's talking funny wrist cocks and things. It's funny how they change. Kids are easy to teach, or beginners are easy to teach. You give them a basic set of instructions, or one basic instruction. Hey, mate, hit the ball with that club or that stick and get out of the way. People that have been messed up badly, it might take a bit more work. So to answer your question, I'd love the challenge of working with a really technical golfer who hasn't achieved anything. I think it'd be a lot of fun. They might not like it at first, but if they gave it a chance, I think they might really find out how good they are.
Well, what's interesting in terms of Australian golfers, you got Jason Day, also, 19 years old, winning on the Korn Ferry Tour, superstar, but had to change his swing because of injuries. At what point do you talk to a junior, for example, who's a superstar, and say, "Hey, you're going to Will Zalatoris your back. We got to clean some things up."
Yeah, injuries are tricky. I've got a bit of a Jason story, connection, Jason Day connection. He's coach back in the day. He's coaching caddy. We spoke about Jason way back in probably the early noughties, 2005 or 2004, and he really liked the book back then. One of my books, he liked the idea of being freewheeling, being natural, being instinctive. So that was my little Jason Day connection. Injuries, I believe, if you're playing instinctively, you're playing naturally, and you're keeping yourself comfortable. I think comfort's often overlooked. A lot of coaches will force kids and adults, for that matter, into these awfully, horrendously uncomfortable positions, and they can't play. And to me, that can't be good for your body. Whereas if you go where it's comfortable and you swing freely, you're less, in my opinion, you're less likely to get injured, and you pick up some clubhead speed as well, which is good. So injuries, yeah, it's unfortunate. I just think it's part of life. If you play golf, there is definitely stress and strain on your back. You can't avoid it. Poor old Will got injured, and Jason's got bad back. But I think if you're playing naturally, instinctively, and freely, you're going to minimise the chances of injuries.
But what's the best way to learn a functional golf swing?
Well, my scientific friends, who are some of the smartest people on the planet, would say it's a throwing motion. So throw the bloody club towards the target and get out of the way. Now, I know a lot of really good golfers, elite golfers, are going to go, "Oh, Cameron, you bloody idiot. That's no good. I'm better than that." But it's amazing if you can appreciate the swing as a throwing motion, how far you can take it. You can get, down to get quite you can go deep with that and get a lot of benefit. You can hit little fades, little draws, knockdown shots. One of my favorite drills is to imagine a ball stuck to the club face. So when you take it back, the ball stuck to the club face, and on the way down, through impact, you feel like you're throwing that ball towards the target. And that's a brilliant drill. You can hit all sorts of shots. You can swing it harder to hit it further. You can throw it slightly to the left and feel like the club face is staying open to hit a fade or hit draws, hit low, hit heights. It's a brilliant drill. That's the simplest way. I mean, that would work for a tour player, but it would also work for a beginner.
What I found interesting about your book is that while a lot of pros nowadays teach this super torque position at the top of your backswing, you actually advocate having a comfortable top of the backswing position.
Yeah. The scientists found that when a golfer actually, and this is something I wanted to test, so I was involved in this scientific study, and I came on as the golf expert, so to speak. They must have been desperate. They couldn't find anyone better. But anyway, what we found was when the golfer relaxed into the top of the backswing position, their backswing got marginally longer, even though they thought and felt it was shorter. So it was in a relaxed position, and from there, they're able to generate more speed. So by actually feeling that it was shorter and more relaxed, they picked up clubhead speed, but they did it without straining and torquing and stressing their body, which is a win-win. It's a mechanical advantage. Easy to do, and you get better results. So I encourage anyone to look at a comfortable position. Now, that's going to change for everyone. Some people have a really long swing and others have a really short swing, but you've got to find what's right for you.
Do you focus on your body when making a swing, or do you focus on the club?
I very rarely, if ever, focus on my body. It's not a good body, so I like to feel the club head. For me, the club head's everything. If I can feel the club head in my hands, which I know your hands are part of your body, but I like to feel the club head or sense the club head in space. That works well for me. In saying that, it's really, say the golf pro says your head's moving too much, you've got to keep your head down, which is a terrible rule, but I'll just use that as an example. You can actually hit shots feeling your head, not trying to control it, but just feeling it. And then that can also help, get the head in the position that your coach is trying to get. It's going to get into a natural position. So a lot of golfers don't have any awareness of their body. They don't have awareness because they're thinking about a million different other things. But yeah, having an awareness of your body can be a great drill, whether it be your wrists or your hands or your hips or whatever. But yeah, for me, I like to feel the club head and let it rip.
Cameron, where can people reach out and contact you?
Pants, the absolute best place to go is just go to my website, automaticgolf.com. You can find links there to all my products. There's articles. I think over the journey I've written 900 articles or something. So there's plenty of free stuff. But yeah, go to automaticgolf.com and you will find a wealth of information all about natural learning, simplifying your golf game and having more fun.
Cameron, final question. Do you think Aaron Baddeley ever gets a normal haircut?
Well, that's a very good question. I mean, I'm not sure what's going on with his hair. I'm a bit jealous though. At least he's got hair. I'm definitely lacking in that department. But yeah, he's good luck to him. I don't know. I think he needs a haircut, yes, but he probably won't get one, especially if he hears me telling him that he needs to get one. So he won't.